a couple of you, I know your coaches, a couple I don't. Doesn't mean that because I know your coaches actually listen to me, so hopefully you guys will listen a little bit. Right, so, first of all, have you guys had any injuries? Any complaints? What you got?
Shin splints.
Shin splints, that's a good one.
Oh, like any injury?
Huh?
Broken collarbone.
Broken collarbone, well, unless you tripped and fell. There you go, not much. Okay. In timeout, when you should have been chilling out. Okay, so any running injuries?
Stress fracture.
Stress fracture, that's a bad one. What you got?
Rolled ankle.
Rolled ankle, okay.
Stubbed
Stubbed the toe. All right. So we'll talk about a few of these, right? So some of the ones you mentioned are pretty common. We'll start with the stress fracture because that's kind of the worst one. So what do you guys think about stress fractures? Is that something you could run through? You can't answer. No, right? Why? You guys know why? Because it's fractured. Yeah, so first of all, the pain's going to stop you, so you're not going to want to run through it anyway. But with a stress fracture, there's no way you're going to run through that. It's only going to get worse. Okay, so that one, unfortunately, that's why I say that's the worst one. How about shin splints? Did you run through that one?
Yeah.
Yeah, where was the pain?
Inside.
On the inside, yeah. Okay, you guys are making fun. Where's the pain? It's on my shin. Okay, well, you got an inside of your shin and an outside of your shin, right? So his is actually on the inside, which is probably the more difficult of the two to deal with, right? And so a lot of you guys, if you're on uneven surface like grass, okay, or on trails, and you got really unsupportive shoes because you're racing and you're trying to have the lightest weight shoe possible, well then your foot and your ankle are a little bit less likely to support you, unless you're strong enough, right? And we're going to go over some of those today. Something along those lines, it's inside of the shin pain, and like I said, that's going to be one of the worst ones, or of the two shin splints, that's going to be the worst one to deal with. Usually lasts a long time. Did you get any treatment for it?
No.
No? Just ran through it, just sucked it up and ran through it. Okay, that's the problem with you runners, right? Because you don't stop or you don't take some time off, and it causes some problems. He's lucky he was able to run through it. A lot of the times, you can run through some of the injuries, but it's questionable, right? Too much can be too much, right? Usually, you guys, let me ask you this, and we have prizes for people who actually participate in an answer, okay? What do you think the number one predictor for running injury? What makes you injured with running? What's the number one reason? Why do you think?
Surface.
Okay, that's a good guess. So like surface? Yes, ma'am.
Not training.
Not training. That's also very good. Yeah, so that's good as well. You still haven't hit it.
Running too hard.
Running too hard. That's like overwork. Yep. What you got? Okay, equipment. All you guys, great answers, by the way.
Dehydration.
Dehydration is another great answer. Yes, ma'am.
No stretching.
No stretching. I like that.
Stepping on. Taking a pothole and falling.
Yeah. Okay. All of you guys, great answers, but not the number one answer. The number one reason for running injuries or predictor for running injuries is previous injuries. Okay, so if you've been injured once, you're more likely to be injured again, right? And why do you think that might be?
Bad luck.
Bad luck, yeah.
You didn't let it have time to heal.
Good, you didn't let it have time to heal.
Maybe it never got quite as strong, even though usually it gets stronger.
Okay, what do you mean by that? So it didn't get strong, but maybe it got stronger. What do you mean by that?
Maybe, like, some people when they shatter their bones, like, you can get it filled, like, a tumor or something, you can get it filled in with, like, plurals. Maybe that doesn't get enough calcium, so it's really not
Okay.
good.
So that's entirely different. I like that one. That's entirely different than talking about bones. Bones actually, if you're going to get injured, I'd rather fracture a bone than soft tissue like muscular tendon. But what happens usually, you get injured, right? And you didn't do any rehab. That's very typical. Okay, you'll get injured, you'll go right back to running because you finally are pain-free, and you want to get back to doing what you were doing. So now you run on a foot, ankle, knee, hip that's weaker because you didn't do any rehab. You took time off, maybe you slowed down, you didn't do as many miles, and then you go back to normal when you're pain-free, but you're not strong enough to handle the new miles. One of the things that Kirsten and I like to say in our clinic, you have to be fit to run, not run to be fit, meaning you guys need to be strong and flexible to handle the miles that you're going to do. And that's what we're going to work on. How about the plantar fasciitis? You guys heard of that one? What is that? Your dad had it. Yeah, your dad had that. Okay, so what do you guys tell me about plantar fasciitis? What you got?
It's when the feet hurt.
Good. The plantar fasciitis is the bottom of foot pain, right? Your dad he's beyond help. Okay. So, bottom of the foot pain, is that something you think you could run through?
Probably.
Probably.
Determination or something shooting you.
Determination, that'll get you in trouble. Okay? Because that's what all of you guys have, otherwise you wouldn't be here, right? It doesn't matter how much you want to run up here, it's what your body's going to let you do. So, that's a good point there. Plantar fasciitis is probably something you don't want to or can't run through, all right? Bottom of the foot pain usually comes from some weakness, and also, like you guys had mentioned earlier, some training errors. Wrong surface. What you said, too much, too soon, too fast, that's another really big problem with running injuries. That's why, hopefully, this camp is teaching you how to carefully build your miles, carefully build in some speed work, okay, so that you guys can avoid seeing me or Kirsten, right? Okay, so the knee is actually the primary or the first injured joint, if you will, for runners, and that one is because of volume, all right, meaning too many miles. So when you guys are doing your speed work like you did today, you'll have different kinds of injuries, okay? Volume injuries are too many miles, too much, too soon, too fast, will cause some knee problems. All right, so we're going to go through some things in a second to determine if you're set up for some knee injuries. A lot of the times the knee, we talk about the knee being the stupid joint because it doesn't really have a mind of its own. It listens to what it's being told by the hip or the foot and ankle, okay? And it's kind of caught in the middle, and we'll show you, we'll have an example of something in a second. Any other thoughts or concerns about injuries? Yes, sir?
When we play soccer on the beach on Thursday.
Yep.
And then after that, like your ankles kind of hurt.
Okay.
What was that?
So probably the outside of the ankle, right? Yeah. So on the outside of the ankle, there are three kind of smaller ligaments. Okay. Soccer players are notorious for that, and it's usually when your foot goes down and in too much. And it's common with soccer players, but certainly with you guys doing cross country, not necessarily track, but cross country. Uneven surface again, in a very light shoe, unstable shoe, and you can almost roll over on your ankle or trip it on a root or the grass when it's uneven. Okay. So unfortunately, with that one, there's not much you can do. You got to just rest it. A lot of times, I played soccer as well, so a lot of the times you just kind of work your way through it, and your ankle is pretty much, unless you do rehab, your ankle is set up for injury. Remember, if you already had an injury, you're more prone to that injury again. So there are things you can do. We'll talk a little bit about it. Ma'am.
I know in soccer you can tear your ACL. Can you do that running?
That's a good question, actually. So running, not the track. So running like on your own, straight ahead activities. If you have an ACL. Do you guys know what the ACL, heard of the ACL? Okay, so it's a ligament inside your knee. Okay, and it's really the first stabilizer for your knee. Okay, so if you tear it, it's a lot of pain, and you're not really as strong as you should be in your knee. As long as you run, if you don't want to have surgery, because that's a good 9 to 12 months of rehab, if you don't want to have surgery, you're good to go straight, what we call straight plane activities, like forward activities. Once you start to go side to side, or rotate, twist, run on trails, uneven surfaces, that's when your ACL is not going to be happy if you don't have one. So, depends. You can run. Just anything else?
The burning in the side of the knee area, the exact.
Yeah, that's a good one. I was hoping somebody would
I mean,
come up with that.
Terrible burning, and then feeling like it gets stiffer, and you can't even move your leg.
So we kind of lumped that one into knee injuries, but it's outside of the knee. Have you guys heard of the iliotibial band, ITB? No, I didn't think so. So it starts as a muscle on the top of your hip. You guys, runners, unfortunately, if you guys can make it through your running career without ITB problems, God bless you. Okay, so it starts as a muscle on the outside of your hip, and then it's almost like a pretty thick ligament down the side of your leg and attaches just below your knee. That's another one that happens a lot with hip weakness and a lot of miles, okay, or a lot of miles when you're not ready for it, okay? So we would have to do a whole lot of stretching and some strength training, and we're going to go over some things that would, in a second, that would also help out with that.
I used to have something with my hip, like, where if I run, it'd start, like, when I began to run, and then if I ran through it, it'd show me
Where? In your hip?
right here.
On the backside, yeah. Okay, so that could be closely related to that ITB that I was just talking about. So he brings up a good point. If you have some aches and pains at the beginning and you can run through them and they go away relatively quickly, that's okay. Stick with it, but be careful. If you get aches and pains that start towards the end of the run and last that day, that's an indication that maybe you need to take some time off.